Let's get started. Again, a very warm welcome to everyone, and in particular to Harshit. Thank you, Harshit, for joining us. Like I do, I'll always will give a quick background to the discussion today, and then introduce Harshit as well. So today, I think if I'm getting my numbering right, and I do get it wrong now, this is the 41st edition, actually, of SaaS Talks. We have been running this over the last few years. The intent is to have sort of an equivalent of a roundtable discussion on a particular functional topic. And I always emphasize that this is not meant to be a rags to riches story kind of a discussion. We try to get into one particular topic. This is largely driven by audience questions. While I will set the stage for the topic, introduce the speaker, ask a few questions, but thereafter, we will actually rely on audience questions. A few requests when you do ask your questions, either you can raise your hand and we'll actually bring you on live here in video for you to ask your questions. Or alternatively, you can ask your questions, but please do not put them on the chat panel, put them on the Q&A panel, importantly, because I will not be getting a chance to look at the chat panel in between. So please put it on Q&A. That's number one. Number two is, please keep your questions relevant to the topic. If you have questions on other topics, please email them to us separately. That helps us figure out what we should choose as the next topic for SaaS Talks, but please keep them relevant to the topic. And with that, let me just introduce the topic first and then the speaker, which is, so today the whole idea was to discuss product-led growth, PLG. And some of you who joined the call earlier, I think were listening to Harshit's comment already, that there is a lot of confusion about what PLG means. Is self-serve the same thing as PLG? When does PLG apply to my business? How do I do it? And over the years, as an investor, we have had lots of debates. There have been times when PLG has been in fashion, and I would say there have been times when PLG has not been in fashion, but that doesn't matter. This is not a fashion item. This is a business toolkit, and it's important for you to know when to use it, how to use it, and what can you do to make it successful, and that's what we'll focus on. With that, let me introduce Harshit. So Harshit is the founder and CEO of Aftershoot. Has been running it now for nearly 5 years, to my recollection, Harshit. And I think we got connected back in, I was looking at my notes, back in May of 2021. And you clearly have had a fabulous journey in building. And while I let Harshit soon describe Aftershoot as well, my understanding is that it's a product targeted towards professional photographers in helping make their life easier on a variety of different counts. Very simple product to use. I have actually, by the way, also used Aftershoot. I used to be an avid photographer, and that's partly actually how I discovered you guys. And to our knowledge, his go-to-market has had very strong elements of product-led growth, but we will get into that in a minute. I also do want to apologize that Sanket will not be joining today. I was mentioning to Harshit that there is a personal reason and a very good reason as of 10 p.m. last night, because of which he said he's not able to come on the call today morning. So Harshit and I will be running the show here together. But welcome, Harshit, and thank you so much for joining SaaS Talks today.
Well, thanks, Alok. Thank you for the warm intro. It's a pleasure to be here, and also congrats to Sanket if you're watching this recording. Oh, so as you rightly mentioned, just to give a brief, like 30-second intro, we're building a vertical SaaS tool for professional photographers. So the idea is that once they come back home from a shoot, they have tons of images. So like imagine 15,000, 10,000, 8,000 images. And the bottleneck for them is to go through all those images, find the best ones, edit them, retouch them, and then send them to their clients. So this whole process, while it sounds simple, is not, because 10,000 doesn't seem like a lot. But if you check your phone's gallery, if you have iCloud, it shows you how many images you have. So I was checking mine like a few months ago. Like I have like 27,000 images till date.
Wow.
Okay. And that's just like two shoots for a photographer. And if it's an Indian wedding, just one shoot. Okay, so imagine going through entire gallery and I tell you that, hey, give me the best 200 images that you've shot throughout. It's a hard task. I imagine doing this every other week. So photographers used to do this manually. They used to do it themselves or outsource it to another human being or just hire someone to do this full time. We built a tool that can automate this process for them by understanding their own style. So we'll learn from your past shoot, your past images. We'll train a machine learning model based on that. We'll just automate this process for you. So, I mean, literally we cut down 85 to 90% of the task that you have. And because of Aftershoot, some of our users are able to deliver images the very next day within 24 hours of the shoot. So that's a very quick blurb about us. Obviously, uh, elements of PLG, not a purely PLG company. As I was telling Alok, we are still striving to build up towards that. And I'm happy to share how
Yeah,
we
so
plan to do
Harshit,
that as well.
Harshit, we'll come to that, but I want to take you back sort of 4 years in time now, actually.
Okay.
When you started this company, you were targeting sort of an individual as a business owner kind of a persona. Sometimes these may be very small companies as well with multiple people, but I'm still I'm still making the assumption that these are relatively small businesses that you are targeting. As you started your business and started thinking about the go to market, right? And for a minute, let's forget about the tag PLG or any other thing that exists. I'm curious as to how you thought about what the initial go to market motion should be, what your customer acquisition channel will be.
Great question. And again, I would love to preface everything that I say with a big star. Okay. That's it. Like, so whatever worked for me, every business is very unique in itself. I mean, everyone's journey is different. So what worked for me may not work for you. I mean, a platform that worked for me, a lot of companies don't even target that platform anymore. Okay. So to Alok answer your question, I think there's no GTM for 0 to 1. Personally, that's what I felt. The 0 to 1, you have to just, get things done. So, for example, we got our first 100 users from a random Reddit post. So, I made a
Interesting.
random Reddit post talking about Aftershoot. Okay. And some person saw my post. They sent me a DM that, hey, I would love to share this post, this app with more photographers. And little did I know that they had like a following of almost like 100,000 photographers. So that small group was 100,000 people. So that's how we sort of like, blew up or got viral or a pseudo viral. I would say we're still not a viral company yet. It's a pseudo virality. That's where we got it from. And these are users, not customers. The first 100 customers I got was from Facebook. So what I got to know that, hey, a lot of photographers were still using Facebook because the people who are clients of photographers, so my clients are on Facebook. Okay, they're searching for, say, wedding photographers, even photographers on Facebook. There are Facebook groups dedicated to just this. And Instagram is not great at community. Okay, and Discord, a lot of these people, they're like, in their like middle 40s, late 30s, they don't use Discord. We tried to get them on Discord, it just doesn't work. So Facebook is the place where they're at, and they're like bunch of communities that are like very like ripe ground for these things. So we got our first 100 customers by literally just going into these communities. Me personally, and talking about Aftershoot, trying to get people to use it, trying to purchase it. Also got banned from some of these communities because of over promoting the app. But
Okay.
like the 0 to 1 was purely that. We didn't even have a proper marketing team until we hit 3 million ARR. So like
That's pretty
yeah.
amazing. Harshit, if I may ask, and this is a curiosity question now from my
Sure.
side. Um, by the time you hit uh, that stage, which is the 3 million ARR,
Mhm.
how many people did you have in the company?
Oh wow. This takes me back. So I believe we hit 3 million ARR in around September 23 or something. I think we were around like 40 odd people. This is including contractors. If you count
Pretty
just
interesting.
FTEs, maybe like 25, 30. Yeah.
Wow, pretty amazing. So, Harshit, again, it sounds like you had a bit of a community-led process, at least in the bootstrapping phase of S, right? So let's go just beyond that community phase, right? Now you began to have users. Um, a two-part question. As people began to use your product, was the early motion a free product that, look, try my product, and if you like it, then we will go through a paywall? Or was it like use it free for a certain period of time, and after that it is a paid product, so it's like a free trial kind of a thing? And when did you transition beyond community? I know lots of questions, but I will, if you can answer them.
Sure. Sure, no, absolutely. I think one of the biggest fears that you have as a founder when you like launch something that, hey, I mean, obviously you launch something that is free. You don't start pay gating your app from day one. The biggest fear that you have, hey, like if I turn the paywall, would people still use it? What if they go away?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big fear. I realize that that's a fear that we inflict upon ourselves. I mean, it took me almost a year to turn Aftershoot from a completely free app to having a paywall, the first
Wow.
product. And I'm pretty sure if I turned the paywall 8 months earlier, nothing would change. I would just be at, like the current stage a bit sooner. That's all. So we'll use this learning. So when we launched the second product, which was around AI editing, we turned the paywall on 3 months. Okay. So, and I think when I talk about turning the paywall on, it's not that, hey, now you have to pay to use, it's still a 30-day free trial. So we still, any new person that decides to use Aftershoot, there's a 30-day free trial. There's no card needed. You don't need to input a credit card or anything. Just, completely frictionless. And you try the product for 30 days. And then once you have used it, you can then subscribe. There's no free option after that. Now,
Yeah.
while this works, because obviously you have a predictability in terms of when you're getting cash. Okay. So within 30 days, a fraction of the users will pay you money because some of them they have found value in the app. So trial to paid conversion, the typical funnel. The con to this is that there are some people who you lose out on because, hey, I signed up for your product today. And photography is something that's not a daily phenomena. It happens on a weekly basis. Now, let's say if it's summers and I don't have any shoot, so I signed up today, 30 days, I don't have anything. And let's say I have a shoot on the 40th day,
Yeah.
I have to pay to use your product. So you have lost me as a customer. So something that we are trying to experiment with, this is called a reverse trial, wherein you start with a 30-day free trial. Once the 30 days are over, you nudge people to pay. If they don't pay, they get 3 or 4 credits to process 3 or 4 albums. Okay. And so this way, what happens is you don't completely miss out on the predictability of a free trial. You have some predictability on the, hey, in 30 days, I'll get some money, but you also don't sort of alienate people who are not able to use your product within the first 30 days. So that's a kind of motion we are moving towards. So I don't know if that's like directly answering your question, but I wanted to share that because free trial,
No,
this thing comes up a lot.
it sort of does. But I do want to take you back to my question.
Hmm.
And different people may have very different definitions of what they understand by PLG. At least at a simplistic level, I tend to divide the world into two buckets. A place where you need to have a human selling to a human. It can be on phone, it can be in person, it can be through a channel, whatever it might be, right? Versus those where people are directly buying and using your product. Whether that's through a free trial, whether that's through free features versus paid features, or free volume versus paid volume. There are all kinds of different sort of mechanisms to this thing. It is all sort of a product led way to build the company. I want to go back as you even thought about a free trial period versus um, saying 30 days, then pay. You could have also actually gone in the direction of saying, if you want to do this much usage, that's free. If you want to use more, then you need to pay, right? And by the way, that's on a volume based. Some people actually also do it on a feature based, which is saying these features are free to use. But if you are a professional, then probably you need these features as well. But if you want to use those, then you have to begin to pay, right? I know I'm complicating the number of variables here, but how did you decide what's the variable and you chose time in your case? Why should that be the variable which becomes the paywall?
And that's a fantastic question. Uh, and I don't know if I have a straightforward answer to this, but we did toy around with a volume-based pricing option
Acha.
at the start. Okay. So as I mentioned that we had the product for free for quite a
Yeah,
bit. So the
yeah,
culling product was free for almost 1 year. We had a good amount of users who were using it. So there was like latent demand. Okay, if
right.
I turn the paywall on, I'll have like 1,000, 2,000 people who will pay me in month one. So I had that. Now, when we sort of tested around with the volume-based pricing approach,
Yeah.
We tested with users, and all of them said that, hey, oh yeah, I would love. I mean, people went as high as saying that, hey, I'm happy to pay you in $40 a month, okay, for using Aftershoot. And we were about to lock in the pricing that, hey, it's, for 1,000 images, it's 10, and like less than 1,000, it's free, and so on and so forth. But what I realized was that I was sort of, my segment was biased. These were people who already had used Aftershoot. They had seen the value in using Aftershoot. So they
Yeah.
will even pay me $100 a month. But what about someone who's just new to Aftershoot, who has never used AI-based workflows before, who's just starting out? And this is back in, 2020, 21, before the AI
Yeah.
became mainstream. So who has never used AI and never done anything, would they find value in 1,000 images? Because I just mentioned that, hey, for a photographer, I mean, they take like 8,000 images like this. So would they even find value? And if I am just, pay getting them that, hey, pay me $40, they'll say, oh, I pay for Adobe Lightroom $10. Why would I pay $40 for this app? So
Interesting.
I realized that, hey, my sample set was biased. So I said, like, hey, you know what? Let's not make it complicated. Culling, which is the image selection, that was our first anchor product. I knew that, hey, this won't be our last product. So let's just make it simple, make it $10 a month, let them process as many images as they want, and we'll figure out a way to upsell them later. And the reason as to why we were able to do this was because we do something that's very unique from other companies in the space. We run all our AI on the user's machine. So all our AI processes happen locally on the user's machine. So there's no like cost associated to
Yeah.
us in terms of cloud compute. So if you process 1,000 images, you process 10 million images, the costs remain the same for us.
Understand.
So yeah,
Understand.
that's basically that's something that we did. We do have a free option as well, but I think we do a very bad job at communicating what that free option does. And I think my whole point is that since this is a professional segment that we are in, so
Yeah.
like people are
Yeah.
using Aftershoot to be efficient at their business. I mean, if it adds value, they'll pay for it. By making it free, you might sort of devalue your product a bit. That, hey, I mean,
Understand.
it's a free product. Is it even for pros?
Yeah. No, that's an important consideration. That's an important consideration, which actually brings me to my next question. But before I ask that, I do want to tell all the folks in the audience that please feel free to ask your questions. As I said again, keep it to the topic of product-led growth. Number two, if you want to ask, either raise your hand, we can bring you in here. Two, you can put the questions on the Q&A panel and not on the chat panel, and then we can take it up in the sequence that they are coming. But Harshit, you hit upon a point here, which at least we caution many founders as they are experimenting with product-led growth, which is that whether it's a free trial, free volume, free features, whatever it might be, as you do that, essentially you are encouraging some people to come and try your product. As you do that, now you have a certain persona in your mind. And Harshit, like I've confessed to you, I've actually gone and used Aftershoot as well, right? I'm not a professional photographer, right? And sometimes the risk is that you may end up getting users who are actually not your real targeted intended users, right? Now, as particularly in the early stage of your business, as users begin to come up and they keep signing, how do you figure out whether you truly have a product market fit with the segment that you actually care about or not? Because
Hmm.
sometimes I feel that until people are paying for something, you actually don't know whether you have a product market fit. I love to buy things when I don't have to pay for them. But if I have to pay for them, then suddenly I'm thinking. So
Yeah.
how does that PMF happen in your case?
No, that's a loaded question. No, appreciate that. No, that's a good question. So I think here's so now again, as I was like 0 to 1, you're still going after the early majority. So like the early adopters, sorry, the early adopters. So it's
Right.
easy to keep things in check. Now, I mean, uh, your website is a bit, like it sort of communicates solely to professionals. For example, we'll use the word culling. No
Yeah.
one knows the word
Yeah.
culling. I mean, someone who's an amateur doesn't know what culling means. So, I mean, when you are in 0 to 1, your business will fundamentally have these problems that will deter the non-serious people away. But then this problem sort of surfaces a lot, and we have been privy to this. We've been through it, so I know exactly what you're talking about. It sort of surfaces when you decide to just go from 1 to n. that, hey, now let's have a proper website, let's have a proper marketing team, let's do all these things. And that's like we want to become a big company, a serious company now. Okay, that's
Right.
when it starts.
Right.
Because this happened to us. So when we had launched AI editing, so product said that, hey, oh, guys, editing is ready. Marketing said, okay, editing is ready. They started running ads on AI editing, the AI editing keyword.
Ah,
Now, the AI editing that Aftershoot does is very different to what AI editing means to a normal person. Like for me, AI editing is that, hey, make myself into an anime or something radical. Okay. But for professionals, AI editing is color correction.
yeah.
That, hey, like take this image, fix its white balance, exposure, contrast, and so on and so forth. So we got like, I mean, leads sort of spiked. Like we went from 3,000 trials a month to almost like, 14,000 signups a month.
Right.
But what we started noticing very early on was that, I mean, the trial to pay dipped significantly, became almost one fourth, which means a lot of new leads that were coming in were like trash leads. So we track our like actually I do this on a daily basis. I track the new customer, the new subscribe leads, qualified leads, and the net new subscriber addition. I track this daily. We start saying that, hey, like nothing's happening. We have so many new trials coming in, but why is I mean, like customer count not increasing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's when we realize our mistake. And that's when I realized that, okay, to make sure that this doesn't happen as you're growing, because obviously you cannot, tell Facebook, hey, don't show ad to Alok. Okay, you cannot tell Facebook that. Okay. So, but what you can do is you can make sure that your marketing team and product team works hand in hand to make
Yeah.
sure that their targeting is actually bang on.
Yeah.
So we have so many different tags that we add for our targeting. Hey, like so, for example, and this requires a deep understanding of the persona. Okay, so we realize that, hey, anyone who's a professional photographer on
Yeah.
Facebook, they have to have a Facebook page. They also must be an admin on that page.
Yeah.
There should be a photography text in their title. Okay, they should be following, let's say, Adobe. So
Yeah.
all these, if you add all these keywords, then you try to like narrow your segment a lot. So we go from like 50 million to maybe like 2 million, and then
Wow.
we start showing ads to them. And this is extremely important. Like this is where like alignment between product and marketing comes into play. And again, not having a sales team, this becomes even important because sales team can sell anything to anyone. I mean, if you have a human, they can convince people to buy whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's where it becomes important. Like your marketing product team should have a daily sync. The lead should literally have syncs every single day to make sure that everyone is aligned, and people should be made part owners of their KPIs. So like, I mean, let's say
Yeah.
trial to paid conversion shouldn't just be a product KPI, it should also be a marketing KPI. That is marketing even bringing in good leads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Retention should not just be a pure product KPI, should be a marketing KPI as well. That, hey, okay, customers that you are bringing in, customers who are coming from Google Ads retain worse than customers who are coming from Facebook. So what's
Yeah.
going on? So all these things, they come into play and you have to like, create this proper system that tracks these things and you get insights on it.
Fantastic. I have actually a lot more questions on this topic, but I do want to take now questions that some of the folks in the audience have been asking. First one is by someone who is choosing not to disclose their name, but the question is that PLG works post product market fit or when there is certain critical mass of users. Um, or should one just think of that as the go-to-market motion from the get-go? Is there essentially any point in time that should give you the confidence that, okay, now let me try a product-led growth motion?
I don't think so. I think so. Critical mass works for network effects, like for
Yeah.
social media companies and all that. Hey,
Right.
if you want to create a content generator that other people consume,
Yeah.
that's when critical mass makes sense. I mean, a classic example of PLG is like two companies that I like a lot and I use almost daily. It's like Loom and Calendly.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example. Like when you share, like so the process of booking a calendar invite with someone. Okay. So you share a Calendly link. That in itself is selling the product. So when
Yeah.
someone is using Calendly, so without even like, them being shown an ad, they're being shown an ad and they're getting a walkthrough of the product.
Yeah.
Same thing with Loom. You record a video of yourself and share that with someone that, hey, like just look at the screen recording. And
True.
that in itself, like, they have the Loom branding, everything else is there. It's on the Loom URL.
Right.
That's also, I mean, a way for the product to sell itself. So I don't think you need to. wait for anything. If you feel that, hey, you know what, I can effectively make people advertise my app while they're using my app, I think that's a good way to start getting into PLG. I don't think you need to wait for anything. If your app has this motion, go for it.
Got it. Got it. Um, Harshit, I'll take the next question, which I think you were somewhat referring to earlier with the when you were talking about the keyword being wrong, etc., which I'm assuming you were using Google, of course, in that process. But Divyesh Patel has this question from Gumlet that what are the best performing paid marketing channels for you currently? And
Mhm.
essentially, which has the highest ROI? That can be one versus which has the highest volume. And are these sort of different or the same channels? And what are these?
Perfect. All right. So I was saying that, hey, if you look at Aftershoot objectively, like 60% of our traffic is coming from organic sources and only 40% is paid. But
Right.
that's not the real picture because a lot of ads that we run on Meta, on Instagram and other places, they're consumed on mobile, while our app is a desktop application.
Ah, okay.
So people like there's a loss of attribution. Okay. So if objectively you ask me that, okay, Meta gives us the biggest volume, but Google has the best ROI because you're capturing the demand. People are all these high intent people. They're searching for after shoot, photo culling, photo editing, and then you're just capturing it. So it's high intent. So
Right.
Google gives you the best ROI for sure. In fact, in some of our Google ad landing pages, we also have a forced credit card flow.
What does that mean?
So basically, it means is that if someone's coming from a very high intent keyword, okay, we uh, get force them to enter credit card details. Because obviously, you notice that if you have a credit card flow, if people have entered their credit card, the trial to pay conversion is significantly higher compared to someone who's not entering a credit card.
Also, you create a different flow based on your judgment of the intent of the prospect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So intent, it's completely intent based. And it's only for like some Google ads wherein we'll know that, hey, this cohort of users has been converting the highest, they have the best LTV to CAC. So we just, hey, like, you know what, like, let's just make sure that we enter credit card and we try to boost the conversion rates further. Obviously, if we see a dip in volume or people starting trials, we remove it, but we keep A/B testing these things. But I believe the answer is that, hey, the best ROI is Google, the most volume is Meta.
Yeah,
But the answer could also be that, hey, Meta, while having the largest volume, also gives us a good ROI, but I mean, there's a loss of attribution. I don't have the answer. Practically, I don't have the answer today.
understand. Understand. Hopefully, those folks on the call who are building marketing automation tools can take that as a problem to be solved for in the future. But totally understand. I want to take the next question from Rahul. Actually, it's a very interesting question that I wanted to get to at some point during the discussion today. Harshit, I'm assuming that a bulk of your customer base are essentially individuals who are photographers. They are essentially solopreneurs, is what I meant. They are the buyers, they are the users, etc. Now, do you also end up in situations where it's actually not an individual, but it's a small company, maybe, or maybe even a larger company where they have multiple photographers, multiple people doing things. So the user may not be the same as the buyer. So when you are selling, you are actually selling to a company, and maybe we can use a heavier word like an enterprise here. But and if that's the case, because you try to convert a user into a customer, how does that motion work in case you are trying to convert a user to a company as a paid uh, customer?
I think that's a great question. And I'm like, so we don't do this. I mean, I'm the worst person to ask this question because we have like maybe like six, seven enterprise clients, and all of them were inbound. Okay, they had like a requirement of like, like certain requirements that enterprises have. They came to us and we sort of, said that fine, hey, if you want to, if you're willing to give us more money, we'll take it. We did that. But there are two examples. Like, so I think the first one being Stripe. I mean, everyone uses Stripe here.
Yeah,
I think Stripe is the perfect example. It's not PLG in a sense, it's
yeah,
self-serve, wherein that, hey, you just sign up, you get started, and you use Stripe, and it just scales with you. And again,
right,
if you are an enterprise customer, you get perks like, hey, you have a sales
right.
team, you have a rep, and all those things. And I think those things are a given. If someone's paying you $100,000 a year, if not more, people don't talk to people. I mean, that's just a psychological phenomena.
Right.
No one's going to like just, click on a hosted invoice link and pay you 100K. That's not happening. People need to
Right.
talk to people. So I think uh, so that's first example. Like Stripe has done this. I mean, and I'm sure there are case studies around how Stripe achieved this because I mean, everyone, even some of our photographers use Stripe or solopreneurs. And obviously the biggest like OpenAI uses Stripe.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the second example is Udemy. I think they were very smart about this. So I think that answers the question, how do you convert a user into an enterprise? So Udemy, what they did was, again, Udemy courses, anyone can like start a course, start learning, start watching. And I think what this actually was speaking with the former CEO of Udemy, and he told me this. They're like, fantastic way. I love this approach. He said that, hey, so when it came time for us to expand our ACV and start targeting enterprises, what we started to do was we started looking at the IPs of our users and we started clustering them, our users, based on similar IPs. And we realized that, hey, like we realized that, okay, we have a good chunk of people who are sitting together and watching Udemy, and that location is of a company or an enterprise. So let's say if I have like in Delhi, I have like 15 people
Right,
the
right.
same IP. And if you do reverse lookup on IP, it turns out that hey, it's Aftershoot Inc. So what they did was then they went to Aftershoot's people, like maybe like the CEO or the CFO or the CTO, and said, hey, 15 of your people are already using Udemy.
Yeah.
We would want to figure out a way to, upskill your entire org by a discounted offering or by something. And a very smart way of doing it. So you don't lose out on the self-serve or the PLG motion, but you also are able to upsell to enterprises using minimal sales force. You don't need to just throw people at problems. You can be smart about it. And with AI coming in, you can be even smarter about it. So I don't know if that answers the question,
No,
but
that's actually a great thought. I am going to bring in Shailesh Kekade because he has raised his hand, but I do want to add to your answer, Harshit, that and because both Rishabh and Rahul have asked this question. First of all, I think in a situation where your buyer is a company, but your PLG motion brings in an individual user who is not necessarily the buyer, I would say it's a tough motion. And you might realize that as you build such a company, your expense actually in a PLG motion might actually be pretty high before you convert. I think transitioning, it's one thing to transition a individual user to a paid user. It's very different to transition an individual user to a company buyer. That journey that you try and take is actually a much harder journey to be taken. So I would be first of all cautious about it. One example that you gave, Harshit, I think is a great example, which is I've seen some other practices that if there are many number of users in the same company, and let's assume either through a reverse lookup on IP or other mechanisms, you can figure out where they're coming from, then you know that I should follow a sales-led approach now
Mhm.
to that entity, right? So you can have a combination of PLG and a sales-led growth in this situation. One is acting as your lead gen mechanism, very highly qualified that you can go to. The other things that we have seen is that if it's a company which is a real buyer, usually the difference between free versus the paid user are driven by features. So for
Mhm.
example, if you are an individual user, you get certain features, but if you need to use it at the level of a team, let's say like a Slack or something, then there are certain features which will get flagged on only when you become a paid user. And so people also try and go from an individual to a team and from a team to an organization. Usually you make those kinds of jumps. But I do want to emphasize that that journey is, first of all, very data driven, to your earlier point, Harshit, and also not that very easy. In fact, I'm going to quote another friend who is now the CEO of HubSpot. And HubSpot has actually done a very good job of transitioning to um, transitioning to the PLG funnel, transitioning to paid users. And what she was saying though was that there are limitations on how far you can go in your ACV when you start from PLG to paid users. It begins to already become pretty hard, even between the $5,000 to $10,000 range. But beyond that, nearly impossible. And you may need to have a different go-to-market approach if you want to go there. I think looks like Shailesh put his hand down. But Shailesh, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand again. Come online or feel free to put it on the Q&A panel. I want to go back, actually, Harshit, to ask you a question then. You talked about in your own funnel also, and now in the example that you were giving for Udemy, that you need to collect consumer data or user data to be able to figure out whether they are qualified or not, right? Multiple ways you can do it. You can do it silently, which is, as I said, through reverse lookups. You, in your case, went to their handles, figured out they follow Adobe, not, etc. Those kinds of things. It can be more explicit as when they are signing up. You actually
Yeah.
ask them for certain things. Want to again understand if you have tried multiple of these approaches, whether it's explicit or implicit, or in the background kind of data collection, what has worked, what has not worked for you in this process?
No, absolutely. You're bang on. Explicit, yes, absolutely. We have, whenever someone starts a trial, we have a form wherein we ask them that, hey, like, tell us a bit about yourself. So also make sure that we are able to uh, keep a check on the sanity of the trials that we are bringing in. For example, if we see a shift between, so a question that we ask is that, hey, okay, uh, how experienced are you as a photographer? I mean, 0 to 2 years, 2 to 5 years, 5 to 8, and 8+. And then what's your source of income? Is photography the primary source, secondary source? You don't make money from it. So this sort of qualifies our ICP, which is, hey, professional photographers, people who are earning money from photography.
Yeah,
Because I mean, if we're charging, say, $700 a year, so people should be making money to pay us that much,
yeah,
because it's not a trivial amount. It's not like typical consumers
yeah,
that we just pay $1 and you're done.
yeah,
So we want to make sure that the customers that we're bringing in or the trials we're bringing in
yeah.
are making money. So
Right.
these two questions help us understand that, okay, is our lead funnel of the marketing spend that we are spending to get more trials, are those sanitized? Are we still focusing on the right segment? And this is extremely important. So this helps us make sure that that part is solved. And then the second part, the ROI piece, we obviously ask them that, hey, like, how do you get to know about us? Okay, and then obviously they tell us that, hey, Facebook and all. And the last question we ask is, how do you want to use Aftershoot? Is it only for culling, for
Yeah,
editing only, for culling editing, for retouching, so that we can customize the user experience for them. If someone doesn't want to use editing, why do I show them editing? Why do I send them, emails about editing and so on and so forth? So
right.
customize the onboarding experience and the onboarding journey as well. So it's very explicit. We literally, like, this is an onboarding questionnaire that you have to fill. And something that we started a little over a year ago. I wish I would have started this sooner. But yeah,
But Harshit, one of the fears that people have is that the more the number of questions you ask, it creates a bit of a friction in the sign up process. And would you lose people signing up if you do that?
I think some friction is good. Some
Okay.
friction is if someone cannot answer 5 questions about themselves and their photography, because obviously in our segment it works because photographers like talking about themselves. They love to brag, they will want to showcase themselves, so it works. But I feel, I mean, 2 3 questions, obviously it shouldn't be a 15-pager questionnaire like trying to do a census over here. Obviously,
Yeah,
yes, don't do that.
yeah,
4 or 5 questions, I think that's okay. That level of friction is fine, because if
understand.
someone's not willing to spend 2 minutes to fill up that form, actually takes less than 2 minutes, then I mean, they might not have a strong intent, and you might not be spending the money in the right place.
Got it.
So I think
Got it.
some friction is good.
Understand. Understand. One question I do ask actually a lot of the guests, and particularly because you referred to it earlier, when you started your go to market, did you make an explicit choice on the geography saying I will do it in India or I will do it in US? And why not? And if you were starting it all over again, would you do anything differently there?
No, no, listen, home ground advantage, everyone wants to take it. In fact, like, I live in Mayur Vihar, so like literally in the like a 1 kilometer vicinity, like 6 7 photography shops.
Yeah.
So I started there. I went to all of them. Hey,
Acha.
uncle, I'm making this app. आप यूज करोगे क्या? Like, अरे हम तो we are using cracked version of Adobe Lightroom, ये वो, and I have this guy who does everything for me. I was like, okay, because in India, I mean, apparently saving time is not a value proposition.
Yep.
So I realized it might not work. And on the same line, I also realized that I was getting signups and usage from US without even calling up someone. telling someone. People literally like, joining our community. They were like emailing me about
Yeah.
Aftershoot.
Yeah.
So without even like, going up to someone and telling it. In fact, for the first 2.5 years of monetizing Aftershoot, I was doing it from India. I was not even in the US. So I didn't have to go to the US. I mean, even still today, if I go to US, I go for different reason. It's not for like, hey, I want to go for like, customer relationship and all those things. It doesn't happen for us because it's completely hands off.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, the geo was very intentional that hey, where do people find pain and where is it the easiest for me to convince people to pay me? That's the geo I went for. And if I had to do it again, I'll probably do the same thing again, but maybe focus a bit more on Europe and focus a bit more on localization because unlike US, Europe has the propensity to pay, but what matters more for them is localization. So German, Italian, French, Spanish, all these languages
Mm.
you have to add support for those. And not just in the app, like even your marketing comms, even the email funnels, all those things have to be localized as well. And even till date, we haven't done that. So I would have probably done that differently.
Got it. Got it. Understood. I will take a question from one of the folks in the audience. That's from Anirudh Iyer, a bit specific to your specific business, Harshit here, which is as photographers upload more photos to the Aftershoot platform, the product becomes increasingly attuned to their unique style, making it more personalized, sticky. And I think you referred to it as well. However, when shifting towards an enterprise business ICP, does this core value proposition still hold strong? Because now it's not a single user, it may be multiple different styles, or and therefore does it require a rethink, especially given potential overlap with other editing tools in the space? Um, and how does that change your product marketing approach?
Sure, no, great question. So I think you brought up this point earlier, Alok. You said like when you have to move to enterprise, it's more about, features.
Yeah.
And we saw a similar thing. So as I mentioned, like so Aftershoot is a offline first. It processes everything locally on the user's machine. We don't send any compute to the cloud. But when we started chatting with some enterprises, there's someone who wants a 40-seat license for Aftershoot. So it's a lot of big money. But I think one requirement they had was that, hey, you know what? I don't want anyone else in my org to improve the AI profile. So as like the
Meaning,
or the person who was the one who asked the question? Anirudh.
Anirudh, yes.
Anirudh. Yeah, as Anirudh said that, hey, the more images you add to Aftershoot, the better it gets. But
Yeah.
their requirement was that, hey, okay, you know what? I only want to be able to improve the AI myself. Other 40 people should not be able to do it because I don't trust their work. What if they feed in the
Mm,
wrong data and the AI degrades? So only I want to be the one who improves the
understand.
AI. So
Understand.
that's a feature. Then
Yeah.
second question is that, hey, I want to be able to sync my projects across machines, which requires clouds, which requires some sort of photo storage on cloud. So that's another feature. So there are like, add-on feature requests, but you never have to change the core of your application. The core never changes. And in terms of the product marketing approach, honestly, I don't have the answer to that because most of our enterprise have been inbound. But I believe a good start to this would be to have a enterprise pricing card on your pricing page. So have it enterprise, customized options, customized plans, like 99.99 SLA, whatever, and then have a contact us button that routes to intercom, goes to you, and I
Understand.
just respond. And that could be a good starting point. Obviously, there are more things to be done over here, but that could be one point. You shouldn't market your enterprise motion explicitly if you have a PLG motion that works for you.
Understand. Harshit, I wanted to chime in with one question before I ask another question that Divyesh has put on the panel, which I think might be useful to a lot of the audience here. I think we all struggle with saying that, let's say in your marketing outreach, you get to 1,000 impressions, of which there might be certain number of clicks that happen to you where people actually come and visit you. Some of them, they may actually sign up. Some of them actually begin to use the product then. Um, and some of them may then actually convert to paid users. And then, of course, then there is a retention funnel sort of downstreams. As you look at this funnel, are there any thumb rules for you, Harshit, either now or when you started, to say what's good, bad, ugly in this sort of conversion funnel here?
So do you mean numbers?
Yeah, number percentages. Yeah.
Yeah. don't ask me this question. I mean, I so here's the thing. I very like it's a very hot take, and I'm damn sure that 90% people will not agree with me. But I feel like the numbers are different for every business. I mean, let's say our
Right,
trial to paid conversion is 25%.
right.
That still begs with the question that hey, like 75 people out of 100 are not still converting.
Yeah,
Why should we celebrate 25%? Because if you look up online, all the guys will say, hey, 25% is an amazing number to strive for. Why? Why
yeah,
not 50? Why not 60? So I don't have a benchmark per se. Like, hey, I mean, make it go higher to the moon. That's what I say to the team. That hey, like, I mean, if you're bringing people in, if you're saying that these are high intent people because they're using the app, they're, you know, like trying out different features,
yeah.
then why only 25 people are converting? You should be converting more people.
Right.
Okay. And that's where we're also toying around with a product-led sales approach. So like it's an Aftershoot experts program wherein we have these, let's say we have 30,000 odd customers. And out of which, around like 500 odd will be your fans, your champions.
Yeah.
So can you, like rather than hiring a sales team or a CX team, can you pay these people on an hourly basis to do a lot of demo calls for other
Wow.
photographers?
That's
Okay.
the first time I'm hearing something like that, Harshit.
No, so I mean, that's something that, yeah, it's my pet project and I've been able to execute that yet, but I've been like started a pilot and the results are really good. So with these pilots, the results spike from 25% to 60%. Okay, because photographers have someone else to talk to. Because they're not just here to talk about after shoot. Like they'll talk about like the lenses, the camera you use, okay,
Yeah,
what's the
yeah,
like off-camera flash, shooting style, where you're from, and all these things. So a typical onboarding rep will not do them justice because they don't know anything about photography. You've just given them a script about how to use Aftershoot, and that's what they'll tell them. And it's very salesy in nature. Wherein if you have a photographer talk to other photographer to convince them to use Aftershoot, that's more personal.
yeah.
So I feel that's something that we're trying to do to boost the numbers up. So that's one thing. I don't believe in benchmarks. Okay. Same with churn. Like even 1% churn is bad. Why is 1% of your customers churning? Okay. I mean, unless yeah, their business is shutting down and they
Right,
cannot pay you anymore, that's fine. But other than that, they shouldn't churn. That means you're doing something wrong. You're either bringing in low quality people or you're not giving enough value.
right.
So, I mean, again, it's a very controversial take, but that's what I stand firmly on. And none of my product or marketing VPs like it, but hey, it is what it is.
Got it. Got it. No, I find this very innovative to use other photographers, your customers to do it. The only other place where I've heard of this often is that if you look at the open source world and if you are sort of building developer tools, very often the community of contributors, users,
Mm.
etc., become your support channel because people
Mm.
put those questions and you as a company don't have to answer every question. Actually, many of your users begin to answer your questions on your behalf,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Uh, which brings me to the vicious question that
Mm.
I'll again want to take you back to your early part of the journey. That do you offer very high quality support like a 24/7 support early in the very early in your cycle as well? And how to manage that and what implication does it have on your costs or the economics of the go-to-market
Yeah,
process?
no, no. That's a great question. And I think, yes, we do. And the sole reason is because no other company did. So that becomes our core differentiator.
Hmm.
So if a photographer's using your app at like, they just came back home from a shoot, it's like, 1 a.m. for them. They're using Aftershoot. And if they're stuck, the last thing
Right.
they want is to create a support ticket on Freshdesk and then wait like, 24 hours for someone to respond. The moment is gone. They want to be able to you want to be able to catch them in the moment and help them resolve those issues. I mean, obviously, the ideal cases, the issues don't come in the first place,
Right.
but obviously, we all know that's not possible. So you just be there for them when they want it. So yes, 24/7 support. And in fact, like the first year or two, it was me and Justin, who's my co-founder. Both of us,
Yeah. Yeah.
we ran it. So we were the ones who were running the support because obviously the volume was low as well. But after that, we
Yeah.
started onboarding some people to manage it. And in terms of cost, yes, your costs will go up. But here's the thing: if it's a PLG motion, you're not paying salespeople. Okay, so might
True.
as well funnel some of
True.
that money into customer support and customer success.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one question I do want to ask you because I have seen that with many companies also in the PLG motion is that, and I think you were referring to it also, Harshit. many people who begin PLG at some point realize that they want to move upstream as well. Because very often, if you look at the growth metrics, you say, I want to become 3x next year, which means I have to triple the number of customers to do it. That math goes only so far. Sometimes you realize that you have to increase a ticket per user or a ticket per customer to be able to get to that growth, which basically means you're going to larger customers, right?
Absolutely.
At some point, you therefore also realize that you have to transition into a sales approach as well. Now, that's not necessarily meaning you're knocking on doors and sort of selling in person. It may be actually on phone remotely. But uh, there may be a situation where you had no salesperson, but eventually you begin to have some salespeople. My question is that did you experiment with that or not? And if so, at what stage of the company did it become relevant to you?
So to answer the question, I haven't experimented with that just yet, but I may have to start sort of tinkering with it in the next
Right.
6 months or so.
Understood.
So maybe in a year from now, I'll have some answers for you. But you're absolutely right because the the math starts mathing after a while. I
Yeah.
mean, like there's only so many photographers you can acquire on an
Right.
annualized basis and then retain, and then obviously
Right.
tripling the growth YOY. That
Right.
starts to become somewhat of a challenge. So
Mm.
obviously, you have to like figure out other avenues. The other answer to this is that hey, can you go deeper in your customers'
That is
workflow?
also true. That is also
Yeah,
true.
can you like provide more value to them and
Yes.
thereby by virtue of it extract more money from them? So that's
Un-
the part that we are at. So as a
un-
company, we've always relied on that hey, let's just go deeper into the workflow and try to add more value while charging more money. So that's something we have done, and I want to like double down on that. But yes, a sales led approach, maybe in an offshoot experiment, it's something that I'm considering just to see if the market exists, because hey, if the market exists, why not
Yeah.
have both? Why not make more money but also get some mid-market clients? Yeah,
Right. Right.
the win-win.
I asked Harshit also because if you look at very large companies that have been built on the PLG motion, take something like a Dropbox. They all started PLG, but ultimately they actually all have very sizable,
Yeah,
experienced enterprise sales forces as well. Same actually in the developer space, like in Atlassian.
yeah, yeah.
Atlassian actually also does. And uh, again, I was trying to understand at what stage. Brings me to one more question, which is that to manage your acquisition funnel all the way from, I mean, you said you do Facebook ads, Google ads, etc., um, to people coming on, signing up, eventually paying, etc. Any any sort of set of tools that you use in this funnel that have been particularly valuable for you?
So I think we use post hog. So we shift from mixed panel over to post hog. It's a fantastic analytics tool
Okay,
that lets you do a lot of like A/B experiments
right,
and some more things. We use Intercom heavily. I was like, I mean, heavily with an H. Pay a
right,
lot of money to them every month. I don't like it, but
okay,
Intercom is used heavily. I mean, it's such a powerful tool.
right,
And another fantastic example of how you can like have a self-serve motion clubbed with a sales-led motion. So Intercom does this brilliantly. These are the two tools that come to mind, if I'm being very
understood,
honest. And
understood.
obviously, there's like some more other like social media listening tools and all, but these are the major tools that I personally use on a day-to-day basis. Intercom and Posthog, just to monitor, track, uh, and just like ensure that the numbers remain healthy on a day-to-day basis as well.
Got it, got it. I think we'll have time for only a couple of more questions. Um, Harshit, I mean, you started as a core AI company even when Gen AI was not a consumer buzzword during those times. Of course, you use a lot of AI in your product, but if you look at in running your business, and I'm referring to everything from your acquisition to serving of your customers and supporting your customers, where do you use AI in the funnel itself to be able to make your
Hmm.
business?
Good question. So we're actually looking into AI-led SEO approaches.
Okay.
So with like a human in the loop. So basically, you have a human researching keywords, then you leverage AI to write some of the content pieces, then you have a human review it, and then like similar to Aftershoot. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it does the job, you review it, and then you publish it. That's something we're using. We are able to like, go from say 8 to 10 blogs a month to almost like, 40 blogs a month, while making sure that, hey, like Google doesn't penalize us
Yeah.
for using these AI driven blog techniques. So that's one thing we are leveraging. We're also leveraging some uh, visual AI for our ad libraries. So like, create some ads that just I think Meta also gives you this tool wherein you can A/B test
Right.
which visual works the best. So using AI to do all of those things. Apart from that, not a lot, if I'm being very honest. We are looking to start integrating AI into our customer support tickets while ensuring that the human touch that we've been offering doesn't get lost. So we are currently figuring out ways to do that. I think Intercom offers Fin that does a good job at it. Looking into that. Apart from that, I think uh, development is where we've been using AI a lot. So now machine learning engineers are able to write front-end code thanks to Windsurf, Cursor, and all these tools. So
Yeah.
that sort of increases the productivity dramatically. So cloud engineers are able to write front-end code. So now there's no bottleneck. So if I completed my job on a Friday, rather than having to wait for the front-end engine to come back on Monday, if I have free time on the weekend, I can code up something and
Yeah.
like, start experimenting or validating uh, my idea. I think that helps a lot. I think that's where we use AI heavily.
Understood. Understood. Probably my last question, and maybe I don't know whether I can even fit it in, but in India there have been only so many PLG centric companies. Of course, you guys have created. Murph has been an example of that. InVideo has been an example of
Mm.
that. To a certain extent, maybe ChargeBee, but there aren't that many examples of really PLG. You guys did not have the luxury of knowing what exists in India, and in some ways, you have invented your own playbook as you have gone along this path. If, let's say, today a founder is starting a company and the product is suitable towards a PLG approach, what are the one or two skill sets in the team that you would recommend that they add right at the get go to be able to build their companies?
Hmm. Good question. So, so the answer would be, I would want to talk about marketing a bit because
Okay,
that's where I made a lot of mistakes, and I hope that I've hit the nail on the head. That when you hire your head of marketing, they should be a product marketer. Okay, so I mean, basically, they should be able to do a good bit of product management as well. They should not be a pure marketer.
understand.
So that is the one key skill set that can make or break your distribution. So try to over-index on that. Try to be very deliberate with the marketing hire that you make. Okay, they should have a keen product sense. That's the one thing I would say. Apart from that, what else? Uh, hmm. I think it's very contextual, depends on the
Understood.
business. But I think the one thing around marketing, that's one thing that is sort of
Yeah,
true for all the businesses that want to experiment with PLG.
right.
So yeah, I think second thing is yeah, like start measuring uh, earlier than you think you should be. So like these onboarding surveys, measurement, numbers, analytics, start doing it from day zero. It might seem a bit overkill. You might feel that, hey, am I slowing down too much? If you feel like that, then maybe you are overdoing the measurement. Have a basic tracking, basic
Right,
measurement, basic aha moments, and all these things. Try to have a clear definition of these things from the very get-go, because that then sort of dictates your messaging,
right.
which will be helpful for your marketing person, which then make sure that you get quality leads, which means that, hey, you don't have to put a lot of effort into sales for getting those quality leads to become your customer. So it's a flywheel effect. It's a PLG in the company itself.
Understood.
That's important.
Perfect. I know we are 1 minute above time. We try to start on time, end on time. So we will end at this note. Harshit, want to thank you for joining us today, sharing your advice, wisdom, experience with everybody, and thank you to all the folks in the audience, particularly to those who ask questions as well. And until we get to the next SaaS talks. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Alok.
All
Thank you,
right.
everyone.
Bye bye.